Join us this week as we go on a 50 nautical mile sail through squally conditions, rough seas, and strong winds. We pulled anchor just after sunrise and decided to put the full rig up right away. Cole and I put the mainsail up. First, I turned into the wind. Then I loosened the boom sheet as Cole pulls the mainsail up to the top. Right as we were hoisting the main, we had a friendly dolphin escort us out of the anchorage. Finn was pretty stoked about it. I don't have any electric winches on my boat, so every time we hoist a sail, we have to use manpower. In this case, coal power. My mast is 69 feet tall, so that's a lot of sail to get up to the top. With the mainsail up, now I go ahead and use my engines to turn onto course and head in the direction of the next island. As we sailed behind the island, the conditions were nice and calm, the seas were flat, and there was barely any wind. But we knew as soon as we rounded the corner, the conditions were going to change and we should be able to sail quite quickly to the next island. Once we got underway, now it's time to chill and have some coffee. It's still quite early in the morning and both Cole and I are still waking up. Cole and I normally use this time to talk about our plan for the day and what we're going to do at the next island. We were really excited about our future plans as we were going to meet up with one of my good Bahamian friends. Once we sailed over the drop-off where the depth of the water goes to a couple hundred feet, Cole puts the rods out right away in hopes of catching a tuna or a wahoo or maybe a mahi. While Cole messes with the fishing rods, I continue to drink my coffee. I'm also looking at the wind direction, trying to figure out how we're going to get to the next island while sailing upwind. We might have to go a little out of the way, but we'll figure it out. Shortly after we put the rods out, our first squall came through, so I grabbed my rain jacket from Mari Pro and took my seat at the helm. This jacket has truly been a lifesaver. I'll put a link in the description below. As we got closer to the squall, the wind started to really pick up. Now we were under sail, moving about 6 to 7 knots, and really feeling that wind start to gain power. So today we're trying to get to San Sal, but the wind is making it really challenging and there's not going to be a weather window for a while. So what we're doing right now is we're headed south. We're going to go south about 5 miles and see if we can get a better angle, and then we're going to turn and head over to San Sal. Right now we're kind of just playing with wind angles, hoping that we eventually get something that works for us. And a little squally out here, about 2 to 3 foot seas, but should be nice sailing conditions. The squall just went by and we ended up having to turn an engine on because we lost all of our wind. But we got some wind back in the sail, so we'll tack here a little bit and get to San Sal. After sailing 7 miles south to try to get a better angle, it was time for us to turn on course and hope we had the wind to take us the rest of the way. Cole and I prepared to tack the boat by pulling the jib in a little over halfway Then I'm going to make the turn to tack. Meanwhile, Cole's going to run to the other side of the boat and pull the jib out on the other side. Fingers crossed we have the wind and we're successful at tacking. And success! We were successful at tacking and have the wind angle in order to sail the rest of the way to the next island. We're pretty stoked. Now that we've been sailing for about 2 hours and had some excitement, it's time for some breakfast. I went into the galley and found some leftover cookies from the night before and was really excited to share some with Cole. After about an hour of sailing on course, there started to be some squalls developing in front of us. When you see this sight in front of you, it typically means that there is a lot of rain coming your way. We could feel the wind start to pick up and the seas started to get swelly. At this point, we keep an eye on the wind just to see how strong it's getting, but we leave the full rig up. If the wind starts to gust 20 to 25 knots, then we'll reef the sail, but in the meantime, we'll use the wind to our advantage to pick up some speed. I went ahead and grabbed my rain jacket just in case. Typically, if you put the rain jacket on, the rain stays away. Let's see if it happens this time. Videos never do it justice, but at this point the waves were about 4 to 5 feet and we were taking some waves over the bow. We were also cruising at close to 10 knots and we were going straight into the squall. Luckily the winds were staying consistent around 20 knots, so we didn't have to reef the sail and we could feel the power of the storm pushing us along. The stormy conditions only lasted about an hour, and after the rain came a beautiful double rainbow and some stunning conditions. Something that never gets old is seeing the end of a rainbow. We see this all the time on the ocean. Here you can see both ends of the rainbow. How cool is that? Once the squall passed, now it was time for some proper food. We can't live on just cookies, so Cole decided to cook up some quesadillas in our galley.
Here's your food.
Thanks. Here's a fun fact not many people know. I used to get sick 98% of the time I was on a boat. If there was any sort of waves, I would be vomiting over the side or curled in a ball trying to fall asleep and not die. But ever since I bought my boat, I haven't had any issues. As long as I'm sitting at the helm, I'm good to go in any conditions. And here's proof. Chowing down on a quesadilla in about 5-foot seas with no issues and not a care in the world. So if you get seasick, there's still hope for you, I promise. Maybe you just have to buy a boat. With a stomach full of cookies and quesadillas, I decided now was a good time to get a sweat session in. So I grabbed my bands for my girl Krista and got to work. One of the things I miss from land is a good gym. It's hard to stay fit while you're living on a boat, but I do the best I can and try to get creative with workouts while underway. Right after my workout, I spotted a frigate in the distance. We sailed over hoping that it might be on top of some tuna, but didn't end up getting a hookup. It was still really cool to see the birds so far away from land. At this point, the conditions have turned beautiful. We're cruising at about 6 knots, the seas are about 3 to 4 feet, and everybody's having an enjoyable sail. Cole has a really nice professional camera setup and is looking for any opportunity to bust it out and get some cool photos. I think he ended up getting some great shots of the frigate.
We got a leak. We got a leak. We know where it's coming from, but the crazy thing is you can't see on the outside where it's coming in. So the investigation will continue.
Soaking wet. Soaking wet. Water does not belong on the inside of sailboats. Salt water at least. Okay, tell us, Sherlock.
With the headlamp, I was able to see that in rough conditions with the hull slap, there's water getting through where our table had some work done. How many years ago? 3 years? Two years ago? Yeah, so we'll just have to reseal it from the outside and the inside, but it's fixable. Not a big deal. Just salt water, what can it do?
After we identified the source of the leak, we only had 4 miles to go and we're cruising at 7 knots. We could see land at this point and we're getting really excited. Our friend just messaged us a picture of us. He can see us arriving. We still have about 3 miles to go, a little under 3 miles. It's been a pretty beautiful sail. We were upwind for most of it, so trying to sail into the wind, we need at least 45 degrees in order to sail, and we got that. So luckily we were able to sail most of it and use the engine just for a little bit, and the last like 8 miles we were able to sail with engines off the whole way. So pretty stoked. The wind did what it was supposed to do. We got the wind and we're able to sail, and we're now pulling it to our next destination. And it's windy! Oh my goodness. That's a very nice hug, Finn. Very nice hug.
So warm!
Good poopy, Finn. Good poopy. Did you make poops? Did you go pooping? Good job, babe. You did it. As we got closer to land, the seas really laid down. At this point, they're about 1 foot, and it's safe for the puppies to move around. So we went ahead and took off their life vests and gave them an opportunity to stretch their legs and use the trampoline potty. Cole and I picked out our anchorage for the night, and now it's time to drop the sails. So first we're going to drop the jib. Cole's going to crank in the furling line while I release the sheet, and the sail will roll in nicely. Next, it's time to drop the mainsail. So first, I'm going to turn into the wind, wait till the sail starts luffing, and then Cole's going to release the halyard and let the sail drop. This takes a little practice, but once you have it down, it's quite easy to do, especially if you have a good teammate. Once the sail's down, Cole jumps up on the hardtop to feed the remainder of the sail into the sail bag, make sure all of the reefing lines are in the sail bag, and zip up the sail bag to keep our sails nice and fresh and protected from the sun. With the mainsail secured, now it's time to go in and set anchor. First, Cole and I will search for a nice sandy patch to drop the anchor in. Typically, I'm looking for water between 8 and 20 foot of depth in order to drop anchor. That's where I feel really comfortable setting anchor for the night. Once we find a sandy patch within that depth, I'll go ahead and turn into the wind, and Cole will start to drop the anchor. I like to mark where we drop the anchor on my Garmin so that it's easy when pulling up the anchor. This was an idea Cole had, and it's worked really well. Oops, we almost forgot about the fishing lines. Cole runs to the back to reel them in as we just went over the drop-off, and we just hooked up to a fish. How crazy is this? Let's see what we got.
Jeff, you're gonna gaff them, right?
No, I'm gonna reel, you're gonna gaff. It is a tuna. Here.
Puppy chow. Sashimi.
We ended up catching a skipjack tuna. These are actually pretty decent to eat, and you absolutely can eat them. We just typically feed them to the puppies because we have the puppies on a fish diet as well. Alright, now that the puppies have food and the fishing lines are in, now we're gonna go ahead and set anchor. Cole found a nice sandy patch. I motor into it, turn it into the wind, and we drop anchor. Once Cole starts to drop the anchor, I bump the engines in reverse so that the boat backs down and that the anchor chain runs straight out the front of the boat. We arrived at our location and we anchored in a little bit deeper water just because we want to be offshore. So Cole's gonna jump in, check the anchor, make sure that we're good to go and that we're not gonna hit anything and that it's set really well. Thanks so much for sailing with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again next week on the next adventure.